Good afternoon. Welcome to today's web talk in what will be our new series, They Are Lying About Jews Again. I'm Andrea Spindle, Executive Director of the Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation and today's moderator. If you've been attending our web talks, which began in April, you will know that we've presented talks under one of two different overarching themes. We focus first on the not surprising concept that anti-Semitism is a virus too, and heard from speakers who are experts reporting on the virus of anti-Semitism that has been spreading in the US, UK, Iran, Turkey, India, and many other countries, including Canada. It has been spread through progressivist leftism and alt-right ideologies and Islamism. We then had speakers who championed unapologetic Zionism, explaining how that is part of our own proud Jewish experience and how we can use it as a strategy to fight anti-Semitism, along with telling the truth about Israel, confronting lies, myths, and propaganda campaigns. Today, we're moving on to a third theme. They are lying about Jews again. This overarching theme embraces both the first and second themes in that we will identify the sources of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism and provide speakers who have first-hand knowledge of the lies and how to combat them. The anti-Jewish tropes of past eras have now largely morphed into anti-Israel tropes, and they're spread not only by individual Jew haters, extremist anti-Semitic organizations, but also by a willing complicit press. Who better to counter the lies than journalists, photographers, reporters, publishers, and editors who care about the truth? Our speakers today, whom I'll introduce shortly, will tell you how they took on much of the world's press and biased news services located in or reporting about Israel, and did so by offering evidence to support truth. The Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation is a registered charity engaged in educating Canadians about all forms of anti-Semitism, especially that which masquerades as anti-Zionism. We are actively promoting the adoption and implementation of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism and its principles by all levels of government and public institutions. The IHRA definition is a key tool in the battle to stem the tide of anti-Semitism. Other tools include developing strong relationships with both Jewish and non-Jewish organizations, providing people with accurate history about Israel's legal, biblical, and historic rights, and standing proud as Zionists, whether as Jews, Christians, Muslims, people of any faith or no faith. This web talk will be recorded and posted on our website tomorrow, so we invite you to listen again and then share this with friends. Please also make your $5,781 donation to CAEF so that we may continue to bring you informative and interesting experts and build strategic initiatives in our effort to combat anti-Semitism. Now it's my pleasure to introduce three special guests. Lieutenant Colonel Baruch Yedid is head of Tazpit Press Services Arab Desk. He is the top investigator in Israel media today. Baruch served for over 30 years in the Israeli military and security services. He's fluent in Arabic. He is renowned for his expertise in Arab and Palestinian affairs. Baruch has a BA in Middle East Affairs from Bar-Ilan University and graduated with honors from the IDF Command College. Amotz Eyal founded Tazpit Press Services, Israel's news agency, in 2010. Amotz gave cameras to a pioneering group of volunteers who set out to document the truth on the ground in Israel. Amotz is a media expert who led lectures on media in the conflict zone at the IDC University in Herzliya. He has a BA from Open University and an MBA from Eyal University. Amotz began his journey as a social entrepreneur as a child when he petitioned the Israeli Supreme Court to move soccer games to allow the entire public, including those that celebrate Shabbat, to enjoy the games. He continued as a teenager by founding both the Tzur Israel Alternative High School and the Migdalim Student Village. Amotz served in an elite unit in the IDF and continues to be active in reserve duty. He and his wife, Yara, and their daughter live in Moshav Alon in the Judean desert. Chana is Director of Foreign Relations at TPS and works to create new relationships with foreign news agencies, media outlets, and foundations and supporters. She's originally from the US, but made Aliyah in 2005 and lives with her husband and 4 kids in Modim. And I apologize for not having sent out a photo of Chana, whom you'll meet shortly. She will provide a wrap-up for us and tell you how you can get involved and follow TPS. Following the presentation by Amotz and Baruch, they'll be happy to answer your questions. So please use the Q&A function on your Zoom screen if you have a question, and I'll try to get to you to place it before one of our speakers. And now over to Amotz.
Hi, everyone. Please allow me to share my screen. 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Looks fine.
Great.
Yes.
So, hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. I think we met last time in Israel when I took you to a short trip to Hebron to show you what actually is happening on the ground and not just what you're getting from your news service. I started the TPS, the Israel News Agency, 10 years ago, just a short time after I finished my service, my army service. I served in one of the most elite units in Israel. And I remember a moment in my service. Together with my unit, we served in Jenin. And Jenin is an Arab town in northern Israel. And I saw, we have a clash with the Palestinians. And I saw my friend from my unit running away from the clashes. And it was just short time after the Second Lebanon War. And I asked him, we just finished the war. Now you're running away from small town clashes. Why? And they told me, did you not see? They had cameras in their hands. Now, when I understood that, I tried to find and to define what was so scary in the cameras. And I found that in the last years, the Palestinians used fake material, fake videos to attack the Israeli soldier. They took few different events, combined them together, and made something that was look different, totally different from what actually happened. So I understood that this is my next fight, and that's what I need to fight of. And after I finished my service, I went and I thought together with myself, and I said, in the army, I learned that when you see a problem, you need to solve the problem. And like in the army system, you need to define three different, everything is separate to three. When you're trying to find solution, you separate the problem to three. So I thought together with myself, what here is the problem? First of all, we need to understand that this is a media war. Okay, this is a picture that one of my photographers took in near Bet El in Ramallah. It's an Arab town. And what we see here in the picture, we see here in the middle of the screen, the photographers. Behind them, Palestinians that throwing rocks. On the other side is the soldier. It's hard to see here, but if I'm going to the wider picture, you can see the Palestinians behind the photographer and the photographer in the middle of the event, in the middle of the clashes. They are not behind, they are not on the side. They are actually part of the problem. This is the media world of today. So like I explained, when I saw the problem, I tried to understand how I can solve it. So what I learned, it's that the first thing that you need to define when you try to solve a problem is what, or to win a war, is what is the target? What is the real target? Because if you will miss the target, it doesn't matter how much power you have, you miss, you cannot solve it. And then you need the ammunition and the manpower. The third thing is so important is the spirit and the motivation. What each of one of the things. So the target. I learned it carefully, the situation, and I found interesting fact. And I will ask a question. what is the most influential news outlet in the world? The most common answers that I'm getting when I'm asking these questions can be CNN, Fox News, New York Times, but I can tell you that no one of them. The strongest news outlet in the world is the news agency. AP, did you hear about Associated Press, Reuters, AFP? They are the news agency. They are the provider of most of the information that you will read after that. And I will show a few examples. This is how it works. You have the event, and then you have photographers from the news agencies, and then they distribute their material to media outlets. And then the public get it. And this is the chain of the news. So first thing that you need to understand that when you're trying to fix it, don't go to the public, don't go to the media outlets, go to the event, go to the news agency, go to the root of the problem. Sorry, something wrong. Okay, this is some data that we collect. AP, AFP, and Reuters together control today in 85% of the information in the world. It's not about Israel, it's about everything that you read from foreign media, from foreign countries. 85% of the information, it's coming from these sources. AP, Associated Press, sending their material every day to more than 15,000 media outlets. And according to their estimation, they're reaching half of the world population every day. This is the numbers. It's huge and it's so influential. Reuters is the same. So this is few examples when I want you to see it in your own eyes. This is a headline on CBS News. 3 Palestinians killed as daily violence grinds on. What happened in this event? 3 Palestinians came with knives and attacked people. They murdered border police woman Hadar Cohen, and then they tried to attack her friends. But they didn't succeed. And our border police succeed to stop them and shot them. But this is a headline on CBS. Not mentioning Hadar, not mentioning the soldier, nothing. Just 3 Palestinians killed as daily violence grinds on. Everyone in Israel was so upset with this headline. The government press office attacked CBS, they condemned CBS about this headline. The government did a special committee that spoke about this issue and tried to give solution. But what everyone missed? Who wrote this headline? Who wrote this article? If you look carefully, just above the headline, you see small letters, AP. It's not original material of CBS. They never been on the scene, but AP reporter was there and she sent the information, but everyone missed the right target. This is another example. 4 Palestinians killed in Israel after carrying out the attack. Almost the same headline, Washington Post. Why? 2 competitors with the same headline. It came from AP. Again, they sent them the information and the media outlets just reposted. Another example in Fox News. 3 Palestinians and 3 Israelis killed in violence over holy site. What happened here? If I read the headline, I can guess it's clashes between Palestinians and Israelis. Not exactly. A terror attack on the Temple Mount. 2 border police was murdered there. 2 policemen was murdered on the Temple Mount. In reaction, the Israeli forces closed the old city from, they didn't let people to get inside the Temple Mount. So a week later, it was a lot of clashes in East Jerusalem. And in these clashes, 3 Palestinians were killed after they attacked the soldiers. At the same night, a terrorist entered to a Jewish community, it's called Neve Tzuf, and stabbed 3 people from the same family when they eat dinner in their Shabbat dinner in their house. And the headlines that Fox News decide to run is 3 Palestinians and 3 Israelis killed in violence over the holy site. two different events. They try to compare between two events that nothing can compare between them. But what, again, everyone missed? The same headline, Chicago Tribune. The same headline in the Boston Herald. Why it's the same headline? AP, Associated Press, in all this article, you can see again the credit, small credit. So the first thing that you need to do when you're trying to fix a problem is to find what is really the problem. What is the source for the problem? And what I found is the news agencies. They are the biggest problem when they distribute material that is really not accurate. So this is the target. Now let's talk about ammunition and manpower, because when you're finding a target, it's not enough. You need to fight in this battle. So our manpower and our munitions is the cameras. First of all, I want to show you a picture. This is a picture that I found on the internet, and it's used by a few anti-Israeli sources. What we can see here in this picture, it's look a terrible picture. It's look at soldiers that pointing a gun on small child. When you're looking at on the picture, you feel not just like you really feel not comfortable with the picture. But what is really happening here? I can tell you when I look carefully on this picture, I found out that I know this soldier. He served together with me in my basic training, and then he dropped out from the unit and moved to another unit. His name is Amir. What Amir is doing here? Amir is looking on the kid and holding his gun. This is not how you're pointing a gun. How you pointing a gun? This is how you're pointing a gun. And again, this is look a terrible picture. Soldiers are pointing gun on small, nice, good-looking girl. She is my sister. This is my brother. This is a fake picture. Why I took this terrible picture, this fake picture? Because it's so, they didn't move. I moved one step to the side and took a different angle. And I show that my brother is not pointing on my sister. He's pointing at another brother, and that is not real terrorist. And she is not really scared because it's her brother. But I want to show you the point that they don't need to move. Just the photographer decide with using the angles, using the zoom in, zoom out, what you will see. And when you see the picture, you're positive that that's what happened. Like the soldier point on the girl. Let's go to another example and another sister. I'm lucky that I have a few sisters. I can switch between them. It looked like my brother is going to hit my sister. Second, later, from different angle, they taking olive from the tree together. And again, it's a game of zoom in, zoom out, angles, and the photographer can decide what you will see. This is our first ammunition, the cameras. I will start from the end of the next story. The end of the next story is one of the Israeli soldiers arresting by the military police because they saw a video of him shooting a Palestinian teenager. What happened in this event? It was a clash between soldiers and Palestinians in a village of Nebi Salah. And a photographer took a video that showed the soldier shooting one of the teenagers. But in this case, the soldier was lucky because one of our photographers was on site and took these pictures. You see what he's holding in his hand? This is not a rock. This is a grenade. And this is a grenade. And this is also a grenade. This person was shot in his head, in his leg. And again, grenade, holding grenade, throwing grenade. Guess what happened in this event? But when the soldier said that he believed that someone's throwing a grenade on him, no one believed him. Why? Because the video that was released from this photographer showed just the shooting, and he never showed the grenades. Do you think it was by mistake? He's standing right behind the person that's throwing the grenade. But was his motivation. He didn't want to show it. He wanted to show just the shooting. In this case, the soldier was really lucky that we had photographer in the middle of the scene that succeeded to save him. When we released the pictures, the soldier was released from custody, from the jail, and we helped him. And this is, I think, the power of the camera, a power that you cannot use it if you are not in the field. You need to be there, you need to be with your camera to show, because to say after it, no one will believe if you are not there. So this is our first ammunitions and manpowers. Maybe I will explain a bit the manpowers, how we getting to these places. Today in TPS, we have more than 300 photographers, volunteers, all across Israel. When something happened, they are the first to arrive to the scene. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of night or Friday night or Saturday night. When something happened, they will get the call and will take the picture, go to the place and take the pictures. This is our manpower. This is our equipment. But it's not just the camera. It's also the investigation. Do you remember the story about Muhammad al-Dora? That was a famous story that happened in the second day of the second Intifada in October 2000. A short video was published on French TV, and the video showed Muhammad and his father hiding behind a concrete. You could hear in the shooting, and then you see Muhammad laying down and looked like he was killed. I think this story considered until today Israeli greatest PR failure. Why? Because the Israel respond. Right after the video was published, the Israeli army released a statement that said, we are apologize about the shooting in Muhammad. That's put all the second Intifada in flame, and from this day it's become much more bloody, and the Hamas opened a new brigade on Muhammad name, and it changed the whole story. And why? Because the Israeli respond. 3 months later, a French investigator, Philippe Carasandi, find that it wasn't possible that the Israeli soldier shoot on Muhammad. The angle that the soldiers stood they couldn't shoot him. It's not possible. But the fact that he came 3 months later, no one cared anymore. In the moment that Israel took the responsibility, that was the story. Now, I'm using this story and I'm using this picture to show you, just to to show a point. In this picture, it's obvious that someone took different pictures and put them together. Why he put the pictures together? Because he wanted to give the impressions or the feeling that the Israeli soldier pointing on Muhammad. But I want to show you, I want to explain how important it is to understand and to know what happened, to know the Israeli army, to know the guns. What you have, what is the part that you have in the end of the gun here? When I'm asking these questions, mostly I'm getting the answer that is silencer. You see the part in the end of the gun? Mostly the people answering silencer. But no, as someone that served and used this part a lot in the army, this is called rome. Rome is a part that you're putting on the gun to use a rubber bullet. The fact is that this part is using for non-killing, to make this weapon to non-killing weapon. The person that took the two pictures and put them together didn't know that. This is just a small part in the that you can see when you're checking things. But unfortunately, TPS wasn't exist in 2000. So we didn't did the investigation. But we did this investigation about this story that almost became the second Muhammad al-Dora. We see here again, a picture looks terrible. a soldiers that point gun on small child head, and it's really looks terrible picture. And you can see also the quotes under the picture. Share this photo, let the world see what is really happening in Palestine. But what is really happening here? When I saw this picture, I understood that I see something different here. I see a few facts that most of the people will not put attention. First of all, this gun is MK-47. It's a Russian gun used by armed forces. The color of the uniform is not the same color of the Israeli soldiers' uniform. And the gloves and the uniform, it's look totally fake. So what I did, I called to the Israeli spokesperson unit and asked for their comment. What happening in this picture? I asked them to comment that is not possible to be Israeli soldier. Unfortunately, the answers that I got was we cannot agree or deny because we don't see the soldier face. Now just imagine if any news agency, foreign news agency will get this comment. What will be tomorrow headlines? Israel is not denied. But of course, I know better. And I called to the Prime Minister office spokesperson and I told him, this picture is starting now to run all over the internet. The comment that I got from the IDF was that, what is your comment? He gave me the comment and then the IDF called me again and gave me a different comment that's saying that it's not possible to be Israeli soldier. We ran this story and we destroyed it. And we succeed to stop it to become a second Muhammad Dora and second lie. 3 months later, we found the real picture. And this is a picture of street theater in Bahrain that show the bad Israeli soldier stepping on kids, but it's a theater in the street. You can see the kids watching the show and enjoying the soldier, the actor, have his Israeli flag on his chest to show how bad are the Israelis, but it's totally fake. And if we didn't did on time the investigation, we were losing here again and again and again. And this is the power of the investigation. Now we had together with us now Baruch Yedid, that is today our head of Arabic desk and maybe one of the top investigators in Israel. And I want him to explain you about two stories from the last year.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Okay, Jeremy Corbin. Oh, okay. So first of all, I would like you to know or to share with you what are the instruments, the tools that we use in order to get a pure conclusion during our investigations. So in the case of Jeremy Corbin, we exposed that all the propaganda and some of the Facebook of Jeremy Corbin were run by Hamas people from Gaza Strip, connected with Hamas group in London, and Hamas or Muslim Brotherhood newspapers and the TV stations in London. And we exposed that a guy called Walid Mahmoud seems to be a nice guy with excellent English language, fluent with English, with very good connections with hundreds of people and entities in London, in France, in Germany. This Walid Mahmoud, he is the head of the campaign appointed by the people of Jeremy Corbyn since 2016. We exposed that this Walid Mahmoud, also called Walid Rock, he is a member in the Hamas group, leading by the Hamas propaganda unit or Hamas military propaganda in order to promote Jeremy Corbyn. Walid Mahmoud, I spoke with him twice during this investigation, and he told me that he is not willing to speak with a Zionist or with the Israeli journalist. So I offered him to get some connection through some newspapers in London. And he gave me some names of Muslim Brotherhood journalists in London. And I spoke with him through those guys. But I have some very good internal resources, what we call human intelligence or human resources. We got very good resources in the Fatah, in Ramallah, in the Palestinian Intelligence Authority, also in Gaza, and also inside the Hamas of Gaza. So I connect all of my sources, and I gave them the name Walid Mahmoud or Walid Iraq with his pictures and some of his connections in London. And they provide me with his with some of his pictures with the green hat and the green flag of the Hamas. We got information that he was part of a Hamas group, was in an office, in a secret office in Gaza, that was one of the Israeli target during the last 3 or 4 years. We couldn't go or conclude those conclusions without knowing the human resources in Gaza, without knowing some of the terms or the perceptions that used by the Palestinian people, like the term right of return. Right of return is like a code in Gaza to all those groups that are dealing with the BDS entities and groups all over the world. We couldn't get this conclusion without knowing some of the entities of Hamas in London, like a TV station called Al-Khiwar, like Hamas newspaper called The Memo, like people with which they are Hamas operatives, like Ayman Dalul or Mahmoud El Dalul. You have to know those figures and names and groups in order to know who is connected with some others. So we expose this campaign. And Mahmoud Iraq, he denied that he is running the paper on the Facebook of Jeremy Corbyn. But we got, I think, hundreds of pictures from this Facebook wall and paper, leading by Mahmoud some of the emails that he sent to his friends in London and back. And all of these huge collections of information and knowledge could lead us to the conclusion that Walid Mahmoud, he is one of the Hamas leading people connected with Jeremy Corbyn. It came to the situation that a week before the election in UK, Walid Mahmoud stopped to run the Facebook of Jeremy Corbyn. It was it ran by some other people from London, but it was too late, and we got some good evidence that we could influence the public opinion in London, because in the Twitter or in the Facebook, we could. We did a lot of noise, and more than 200 times, 200,000 times it was mentioned in the Twitter that the connection between Walid Mahmoud and Jeremy Corbyn. Okay. 2 months ago, we exposed a culture network called Shafak, operating in East Jerusalem. We got all the names of the activists over there. We got some other names of the entities belong to this net called the Shafak, which is in Arabic, it means the culture network of Jerusalem. I send all those names and the pictures to my sources in Ramallah and in Gaza and in East Jerusalem. And we came to the conclusion that Shafak is nothing but the Popular Front entity or group, which is a terror group, undercover. During our investigation, or I think in the last day, the same day that we published our investigation about the connection between Shafak and some so-called civil entities with the Popular Front, the same day, the Israeli police and the security services arrested Mahmoud El-Rol, which he is the head of Shafak. They arrested Rania Elias and her husband Elias Khoury, which they are the heads of the Shafak, but at the same time, they are the head of the popular terror group, Popular Front, and they are connected with the same group of the terrorists from the Popular Front that killed a year and a half ago Rina Schnerb close to Ramallah, close to Ma'ayan Dani Spring in the north of Ramallah. But in order to know what Shafak is, what the Popular Front is, we very well known the situation and in Jerusalem. For many years, more than 2 or 3 years, we exposed hundreds of entities and people in East Jerusalem. Many of them belong to Turkey. You know that Erdogan today, he is the head of the Islamic Brotherhood entities all over the world, and especially the big supporter of Hamas. And we conduct some very deep investigations in order to expose all the offices, all the entities, all the people of Turkey in East Jerusalem, like Tika, like our legend, and some other Islamic groups connected with the Turkey regime operating in East Jerusalem, also in the Temple Mount, and also with Hamas activists in East Jerusalem. We also conducted some other research, and we proved that Palestinian Authority, the PA, through the Fatah, which is the biggest Palestinian terror groups today, they are doing or spending a lot of efforts in order to be part of, or in order to be present in East Jerusalem, although that the issue of East Jerusalem is not a part of the Oslo Agreement. So we proved that in 100 of cases, Palestinian Authority are doing a lot in East Jerusalem against the Oslo Agreement through the Fatah and also through the intelligence officer of the Palestinian Authority in East Jerusalem. I can tell you that 2 years ago, we invited to the Knesset in order to give our evidence and kind of a lecture to the Israeli members of Knesset in order to prove that Turkey and Fatah and the PA Authority are doing in the east of Jerusalem against the Oslo Agreement and involved also with some terror groups. I think that in the last 3 or 4 years, we draw the biggest map of the BDS organization all over the world. We have there more than 1,000 names or names of people or names of entities or groups, which all of them are the same BDS movement. And this is, I think, the biggest or the best infrastructure of knowledge that we have to use in order to expose some other BDS like Shafak in East Jerusalem and all over. Islamic Brotherhood, the same. We know the connection today between Islamic Brotherhood with Hamas, with Turkey, and also with some religious leaders, people in the east of Jerusalem. So, but in order to expose all of this or to collect this evidence and the knowledge, I think that we have to use some of our tools, like the resources in Ramallah and in Gaza, in Fatah, inside Hamas. We got some help from our friends in the Palestinian Authority or in Gaza. And today we are part of hundreds of WhatsApp group or Telegram channels. And we are there in order to collect daily, day by day, to collect all the information running by the activists of Hamas or Fatah or some others. I think that one of our best experience is because we are using or we are investigating only the Arabic language, because there is a gap, a big gap between what the Palestinian leaders or Hamas leader says in English and between what they says in the Arab language, because can.
Yeah, so I want to conclude this by giving maybe the last example. Baruch mentioned here a few examples that he investigate, and we succeed to expose, and I think also to make impact. Baruch mentioned the Telegram groups that we are inside there and WhatsApp, and I think it's important. This example is important to explain why it's important to be there. A year ago, the Hamas shot missiles on Sderot, and in response, the IDF shot missiles to an open places. But the Hamas blamed Israel about killing a mother and her baby. I called to, it was Shabbat, and I called to Baruch. I said, we need now to check what really happened there with this mother and baby, because we know that the IDF is shot just on empty places. And Baruch, based on his connections and his ability to be in the right groups, succeed to catch a screenshot of the Islamic Jihad that admit it was their own missile that killed the baby and the mother. Now, you need to understand that most of the pro-Israeli organization, their ability to respond to this false information is by either justify the Israeli shooting because Hamas is using kids, or by saying it's not possible to be Israeli. But we did something else. We show and we prove that the fact it was the Islamic Jihad, her own missile, that killed the mother and the baby. And how are we doing it? Because we are journalists, because we are investigator journalists, and we are there on the ground checking the fact. And this is the manpower, the second ammunition that we can use. And of course, we can write stories. We can write stories about the Israel is not just a war. It's also a beautiful place. It's mostly a beautiful place that have a lot of good things happening here every day, and we're covering it. And we're not focusing just in the conflict and just in what happened in the Arab side or in the war zone. We giving the truth about what happened here. For example, the connection between the Israeli that's living here today to our history for 1,000 years in Jerusalem in other places. We're covering culture, we're covering archaeology, we're covering technology, economy, politics, everything, because we need to send the first story. Now, like I said, you need to find the right target. You need to use the right ammunition and the right manpower, but you also need the spirit and the motivation. And our spirit coming from more than 300 volunteers that's giving us the ability to do things that it sounds impossible to do with staff of 5 people, 6 people. And we can do it because we have our volunteer and we have our supporters from around the world that join us and supporting our mission and helping us to get to the next level. So what is the next level? This is a few successes from the last year. In last June, not last one, in June 19, I was invited for the first time to the News Agency World Congress. It's held in Sofia, Bulgaria. And after years of boycott that they didn't want to accept us, they called us and asked TPS to go there and to join this Congress. I went there and it became a huge, huge success. More than 14 countries came to me and said, we want to work and cooperate with your agencies. For example, you see the guy with the green jacket is this guy. I met him again in New York when we signed the agreement of cooperation with the North Macedonian news agencies. Now we can share material and we can send our information to North Macedonia. But that wasn't our first agreement. The first agreement held in Baku in Azerbaijan. This is the president of Azertag, the Azerbaijan news agency. Why I choose him to be the first one that we signed an agreement to get with him? First of all, there are Muslim countries that care about Israel. But secondly, he's the president of the National Congress of the International Congress News Agencies. And he's one of the power men with the power there. And that was our first ceremony of signing. And from this moment, we started to run our story in Azerbaijan. You see this in the right side. This is our story about a cycling team, Israeli cycling team in the UAE tour. And then we signed agreement with Armenia. You see our story on the Armenia news agency. And this is just the beginning. This is another example that we don't have time, so I'll not go about them, but this is another example of our investigations that we found and we proved the corruption in the Palestinian Authority last year. And it was, I think, again, a big success. Again, this is about the Corbyn. This is few of our pictures, but I just want to explain you how fast our photographer is getting the place. You can see this picture of one of the terror attacks that happened in Israel. And you see the pictures here from above. These pictures was so fast that they helped to the Israeli army to find or to understand the scene about what happened in this terror attack. Our photographer was just 2 minutes near the place, and right away he sent his drone and took the pictures and helped us to understand, the army to understand what actually happened in this event. Chana?
Hi, so my name is Chana, and as Andrea introduced me, I'm the Director of Foreign Relations at TPS, and I'm really excited that I get to share with you some of the most fun part of the presentation, and that's the success and the potential. So as Amotz was discussing, when he went to the News Agency World Congress, it opened up a whole new world for us. When you work with a news agency that represents a country, let's say Azertag in Azerbaijan, you are in effect opening up every single media outlet in that country to accurate coverage of Israel. when people in Azerbaijan who may have previously only gotten coverage of Israel through AP, through perhaps a Palestinian news agency, through AFP, are now getting accurate information that really changes the whole narrative. And what we want is for people around the world to be getting the accurate information on Israel. So this is a very efficient and helpful way of doing that. And so in the next few years, and as you see on the slide, you know, by 2023, we want to expand this greatly. And something that I can already update you on, if you see in the bottom in the middle, is the Emirates News Agency. So Amotz met WAM. They have a great name, WAM. He met their news agency at the News Agencies World Congress. And they talked to him, but the time was not right. And a few weeks ago, when we first got the announcement of the Abraham Accords, we reached out to WAM. And again, this part of the story I really like because it shows where TPS is and the recognition we have. So sometimes it's always better. Maybe in Israel we do this. You know, it's always good to have an introduction through a friend. So we had Pess from Armenia, their news agency, reintroduce us to WAM. So they did, and we got a message from the executive director's office of the UAE news agency saying, you know, our mutual friends in Armenia said that you were interested in connecting. So over the past few weeks, we've been working hard on this connection. And, you know, we like Amotz said, we work very hard at TPS. There's, you know, 5 or 6 of us on staff and so many volunteers. There is work to cover the news every day. And moments like this that you see on your screen are so emotional and really show how far we have come. On your screen, you see the pictures of the walls of Jerusalem's old city, not only with the flag of the United States, not only with the flag of the United Arab Emirates, the flag of Israel on the Arabic Emirates News Agency website. And this is a photo from our volunteer Elran Zabatani. That is the photo for Amotz's op-ed that the head of Israel's news agency wrote about peace between the UAE and Israel, and how that opens up an opportunity, and through the media and through other through other avenues like tourism, but very importantly, the media and accurate information sharing will bring the real peace between people. So to see that and to show that it's not just a theoretical what we're doing here. We are literally changing understanding. This is the way that people are seeing Israel at a positive light from Israel itself. And I will add that following this, I reached out to the head of the European conglomerate of news agencies, Mr. Gibu from Romania, and I said, perhaps you would like to share this with your sister news agencies. And he said how excited they were that Israel and the UAE had reached peace, and that of course they would share. And then this week's European news agency's newsletter featured Amotz's op-ed on Israel UAE peace. So what TPS is doing is so important in so many ways, and it also has this diplomatic aspect. It has an aspect of bringing truth to the people, not only in times of tragedy, disaster, and terror attack, which is important because we must get the facts right, but also in terms of understanding of people and understanding of perspective. So that is very important. I think I also want to mention that following this webinar, I'll be in touch with you by email. And what I would love if this speaks to you is for you to sign up for a daily update on news from Israel and to share that. And that way people will understand what TPS is doing. So thank you, Andrea, for this opportunity. And if you're doing questions or whatever the next part of your presentation.
Yeah, we only have 5 minutes. Thank you, Chana and Baruch and Amotz. If you want to put down your screen, Amotz, I don't know if you have other slides or if you want to put off shares. Okay. So then let me just ask a couple of quick questions. We've covered a lot of material. I have to just tell one little story because Amit said I visited. He gave me an amazing tour, like unbelievable. And one of the things that I've never forgotten is we got to Hebron and you said, look at that little group over there of young, blonde-headed young people. They are getting ready to take pictures of a demonstration that hasn't even happened yet, but they know it's going to be a protest. Why? Because they planned it. And their people are coming at a particular time. And then we watched the time, you put on the car radio, and we heard the protest. It was such a setup. It was so convincing. I came home and told everybody, I wish I'd written about it, that you guys are really ahead of the game. It's not always after the fact, right?
Yeah, I just want to add, maybe, Andrea, that if someone wants to stay a bit later, I can answer maybe
Great.
a bit past 10.
That would be great, because I do have about 7 to 10 questions here. One of the questions that struck me, since you talked a lot about the 3 big news agencies, is what about social media? Isn't it true that young people don't read newspapers, they get everything on social media?
It's also something that I'm hearing a lot, and it's important to see the difference between where we read the news and where from we're getting the news. Because also on social media, in most of the cases, the information that you will read came from a source. It's the person that posted on your social media or wrote about it, he never been on the site itself. He read it either through news agencies or through news outlets and then posted. And to fight or to try to fight in the social media world, it's again to miss the source of the information. Someone need to base on something. Again, yeah. So yeah, today the younger generation may be reading their information on the social media, but they're still getting it mostly from the same sources.
Got it. What is the Israeli government doing now, if anything, to counter some of the terrible media that has come to Israel? Are they doing anything to support what you're doing or taking advice from you on how to do it?
So I can say, first of all, we are not for profit and we are totally independent. We don't want to get money from the government, because if we will do it, we are in a problem in the media world. We are pro-government. We try to keep ourselves really independent, but we have a few cooperation or maybe things that we're doing together with the government. For example, we arranged together with the government press office the Christian conference, the Christian media conference that held in Jerusalem. We helped them with the conference. We plan, and unfortunately, because the situation with the COVID and with the government in Israel, it didn't happen. We planned to do a program together to bring the heads of news agencies from around the world to 3 days seminar in Jerusalem. And we had another plan together with the government to build. We have a program that we maybe teaching the next generation journalism. We bring students from around the world to learn media in Israel, but practical media, practical experience, and that's almost happened again this summer together with the government. But unfortunately, the situation changed our abilities. So we're trying to help the government in some cases, but we're not working for the government.
Right. I have a question maybe for Baruch. We've had Dr. Kadar as one of our speakers, and of course everybody admires him, and his capacity to speak in Arabic really helps because then he talks to the Arab media, which I imagine you could do as well. But tell me, Israel's had peace with Jordan and Egypt for a long time. Do you have relations with press service in those countries?
First of all, Mordechai is one of my best friends and colleagues. And he is the theory calling the Emirate theory, which says that Palestinian Authority is going to collapse and to be divided to 7 or 10 local government emirates.
Yes.
So yeah, Emirates. He called it the Emirates, yeah, like the UAE. And I provide him with a lot of stuff about this theory and some of the evidence. Yes, we have a good connections with governmental and journalists in Jordan as well as in Egypt. Some of them help us in order to know the situation over there, but most of them are asking a question and knowledge from us in order to know what is our special point of view about things. I can tell you that some of the people in Egypt, some of the journalists and self-governmental people in Egypt, they are our sources regarding to what is going on in Gaza. I think that we were the first agency that says that the cooperation between Qatar, Turkey, and the Palestinian Authority will make the Egyptian be angry because there is a huge conflict between Qatar, Turkey from here, and Egypt and Saudi Arabia from here. And we are leading this story in the Israeli media. We also cover the special relationship between Palestinian Authority and the Jordanian regime because there is a huge or a deep conflict between Abu Mazen and King Abdullah regarding Al-Aqsa Mosque in East Jerusalem. And we were the source of the story 3 years ago that some of the families,
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Baruch had a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
we lost sound.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe he'll
some
come
of the
back. My
people from
question
Jerusalem went against the Turkish involvement in the East Jerusalem. Sorry for that.
I'm happy to hear that. That's amazing. My last question, Amotz, what's the most difficult story that you've followed and reported?
Difficult from which?
Difficult for you to track down. For you, you may have gone there, you may have had photos, but it sounds like you do a hell of a lot more than just take pictures. What's been most difficult to investigate and to get coverage?
Look, we had few investigations that we did for a really long time. For example, the story about Shafak that we just mentioned that we published, we work on that, I think, Baruch, correct me if I'm wrong, more than 2 months, maybe 3 months, we work on Shafak, and you're getting information and you're getting a lot of wrong information and you need to check it again and to build it again. But I think the worst story that we cover, it's not maybe, or the hardest story that we did, it's not an investigation. One of our photographers volunteer, again, like I mentioned, we are first in almost any scene. So when something happened, we're sending our photographer from the same area directly to the field. And they are getting there and starting to take pictures and sending us because it's who will be the first one will succeed to maybe control the headline. So one of our photographers took pictures of a terror attack when someone was murdered in his car. And suddenly he unfortunately recognized the car. And the car was belonged to his sister husband. And we published the pictures, and one of our team stopped to work on the story and start to work to help the family with all what they need, because unfortunately that's how the photographer found out that his brother-in-law unfortunately was murdered. So we get into a lot of hard situation when the people was, one of my photographers that went to take pictures of clashes, he got stoned by Arabs, terrorists. So you have a lot of things that is really not easy, but I think all of our volunteers understanding that this is war about the truth, and we are soldiers. So we need to go there, we need to be there. And again, I know the method, or that the Jewish, unfortunately, the Jewish word is love to fight. It's like somehow we like to complain and to try to fight in things, but we try to not to fight. We're trying to win, and it's different. And the way to do so is not to fight, is to be there, to be the first, to be the better. It's not just not to react, not to complain, not to respond day after day. It's to be and to lead the reality. And that's what we do. If it's hard or if it's easy, this is our role in this game.
Thank you. Well, you're all to be congratulated for being very courageous. We admire that you are unapologetic Zionists. We join with you on that. Several people have sent comments. I won't read them all, saying that they would like more information. They're eager to support you. I'm going to ask Chana to give the emails how people can sign on or sign up. And thank you personally from the bottom of my heart, Amotz and Baruch and Chana, for joining us. This will be recorded. We'll send you a link. We'll send everybody that's signed up a copy of it. And if you have further questions, I'm sure that when you get the email from Chana, you can send them directly to her. So Chana, would you like to give us that?
Yeah, exactly. I think we can get the questions if someone helps, and we'll try to answer by email. Chana, she's our expert, in English expert, and she can answer everyone about everything, and it will be helpful.
Chana, unmute.
Where do I type my email address?
Just can you just say it at the moment, because it would have to be typed beside you.
Sure. Hopefully, I'll send it to you later. But it's Chana, CHANA @tps.co.il. So I look forward to being in touch. Thank you, Andrea. This is really wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and let me wish everybody Shana Tova. Stay well. May you all be inscribed in the world too, in peace and good health. Bye.
Shana Tova, everybody. Thank you so much.